Lynch, Minority Leader Lundin, Lieutenant Governor Primavera, Treasurer Young, Attorney General Weiser, Secretary of State Griswold, First Gentleman Reese, members of the State Board of Education, justices of the...
Welcome to the Tuesday, April 2nd, 2024 meeting of the Louisville City Council. Can we have a call to order, and let's have a roll call, please.
Mayor Lay?
Here.
Councilmember Dickinson?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Dickinson, I apologize. Councilmember Fahey?
Here.
Councilmember Hamilton? Here. Councilmember Hefner? Councilmember Kern? Councilmember Bierman?
Here. Okay, let's...
about who we want to be when our great state...
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, the council is planning to continue item 8A, which is the Community Resilience Marshall Fire Update, to April 16th, 2024. There's a special meeting tonight of the Community Foundation that is for fire survivors, and in deference to that, we're going to move that off. Is there, with that change, is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Okay. Next item is public comments on items not on the agenda and items on the consent agenda. If you have a comment, on an item or a matter that's not on our agenda tonight, or an item that is on the consent agenda, please feel free to make a comment of up to 3 minutes, unless you want to pool your time with one other person who is present in person or who is present online. If you want to speak either during the public comments and items not on the agenda and on consent items, please fill out a card. They're right outside of the chambers, and give them to our clerk, and she will read the names, and you can come up to the podium right in front of me and make sure to pull the microphone down close to your mouth, which I have suddenly figured out how to do for the first time in a long time. And say your name and whether you are from or a Louisville resident. Please be respectful of all the speakers. We discourage clapping or cheering. It tends to make people who might have a different point of view a little bit less likely to want to come forward and share their opinions. And let's get going. Do we have anybody who would like to speak? Any public comment on items not on the agenda? Anybody online? Okay. Let's go to the consent agenda. Excuse me. Do I have a motion to accept the consent agenda?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Council informational comments on pertinent items that are not on the agenda is the next item on our agenda. Does anybody on the council have any items to bring to our attention on that aren't on our current agenda? Okay, I don't see. I think Judy Kern, Councilmember Kern, is on Zoom, but I don't see her raising her hand. All right. Seeing none, city manager's report.
Thank
Does
you,
city
Mayor.
manager have a report?
One quick item for you. I wanted to let you know, we're very pleased with the comprehensive plan community survey, over 2,000 respondents so far, which is a great number. We're really happy with that. It remains open for a couple more weeks. And the open house we recently had at the rec center had about 200 attendees there. The vibe in the room was fantastic. Appreciate all of your support in this, and just want to share that good news with you.
Thank you very much. That is, for those who may not be familiar, and I certainly wasn't familiar with the typical numbers of respondents in these kinds of efforts at public engagement. This is unheard of. I mean, that's 10% of the city that already has responded to an online survey. So I'm really pleased. Thank you to staff. Please thank everybody who's had anything to do with that. And a lot of people had a lot to do with the session at the rec center, and everybody's going to have a lot to do throughout the course of this process. And that's a really great way to get kicked off. So thanks. All right, let's go to regular business. As I mentioned, we are going to take up the Community Resilience Marshall Fire Recovery, which has been continued once because we had too much on the agenda the last time, and now we're moving it because of the conflict with the meeting for the Marshall Fire survivors tonight. So we will resume that one, or not resume, but we will take that up on the 16th. All right. B is the Community Decarbonization Plan, Resolution Number 18, Series 2024, Resolution Number 18, Series 2024. He's so nice, I said it twice. A resolution updating clean energy and carbon emission reduction goals, which are the climate action goals, and 2, Resolution Number 19, Series 2024, a resolution approving a memorandum of understanding with Xcel Energy for the implementation of a community decarbonization plan. And with that, I'll leave it to staff.
Good evening, Mayor and Council, and thank you for having me tonight for my last presentation to you all at the City of Louisville. But it's an important one, so we're here tonight to talk about the Community Decarbonization Plan and our plans as staff for implementing this plan. Next slide. So there's kind of 3 main things that we'll be going over tonight. So first is the overview of the final Community Decarb Plan. Next is your consideration of passing a resolution to update the climate action goals to align with the targets set forth in both the internal and the community decarbonization plans that we've been working on since late 2022. And then lastly is your consideration of an MOU with Xcel Energy, similar to the MOU that we have in place right now with Xcel Energy for the planning phase. This is an MOU with Xcel Energy for the actual implementation of the community decarb plan. So first, how does this align with City Council and your work plan? So the Community Decarbonization Plan was a high priority City Council work plan item in both 2023 and 2024. So 2023 called to create a community decarb plan, and 2024's work plan calls for the implementation of that plan. This plan also supports our current adopted climate action goals, which we are talking more about tonight, potentially updating those, and supports the adopted sustainability action plan, the climate topic area, energy topic area, and transportation topic area. And lastly, it aligns with the internal decarbonization plan, which you all adopted in October of 2023. And as a reminder, just quickly on the last slide, the scope of the plan is building efficiency and electrification, transportation electrification, and energy supply. We did partner with Xcel Energy and Partners in Energy for this project, so that's really where their focus is. A complete holistic decarbonization plan would have things like waste and water included in it as well, but those are very small fractions of our emissions, so we're really focusing on the major sectors, which are buildings and transportation. So I couldn't have my last presentation without putting this graphic back up because I've showed this so many times before throughout our internal decarb plan process. This is McKinstry, who is our partner for the internal decarb plan, their graphic that shows kind of the process of decarbonization. And I think it does a great job in really describing what is decarbonization. So first, it's looking at the embodied carbon in our buildings. So looking at our current building stock, both residential and commercial buildings, and saying how can we retrofit these buildings instead of tearing down and building new. Next is the energy efficiency. So that's improving our building envelopes through air sealing, increased new windows, things like that, so that we can reduce the energy needed in our homes and businesses. Next is renewably powerable, and this is where we remove fossil fuel burning equipment and replace it with electric. So this is also known as electrification. Really, there is no path to decarbonization unless we remove fossil fuel burning equipment. And so by taking out fossil fuel burning equipment in our buildings and in our transportation sector and replacing it with electric, even if that electricity today is not coming from 100% renewable sources, it has the ability to be powered at some point in the future by 100% renewable electricity. And then last is the renewably powered, which is the actual increasing of renewable energy sources, either through on-site solar on our homes and businesses, or through the greening of Xcel's electricity grid. So getting into the planning timeline for the community decarb project, it started in May of 2023 when you all approved the planning MOU with Xcel Energy. In June, we started the project. So we had a stakeholder group that we worked with throughout the entirety of the project. We had an application. We reviewed applications with some of you and selected the stakeholders to join our team. Those stakeholders started meeting with city staff and partners in energy beginning in July. For our first workshop, we started a community engagement page on Engage Louisville. We had a community survey available this summer. And then we moved into workshop 2 in early September. I was here in September and gave a project update to all of you that were on council at the time. Workshop 3 was mid-October. That's really when we started to dig into the strategies. And then the last workshop was in early December. We presented the draft final plan to LSAB in February, and now here we are tonight with our final plan. So I talked a little bit about the stakeholder team. So the stakeholder team was made up of community representatives, and they really worked with us throughout the entire process to shape the plan's vision, the goals, the strategies, and we really relied on their expertise. So we had residents, community group members, business representatives, developers, members of historically underrepresented groups, and topic experts. So that's things like electric vehicles, electrification, things like that. In the first workshop, the stakeholder team really talked about Louisville as a community. What are our community values? What are the priorities here? And they came up with this plan vision, which was really kind of like our North Star throughout the entire process. And it's that Louisville will take a measured and equitable approach to reducing carbon emissions from the building, energy supply, and transportation sectors. So centering equity in the work that we're doing through implementation, focusing on historically underrepresented groups like our mobile home park, which I'll get into in a little bit, and then also taking a measured approach. So really focusing on supporting, advising, incentivizing, rather than policy and mandates. So this is a graph that shows our current community decarbonization goal in our current climate action goals, which is to reduce core community greenhouse gas emissions annually below the 2016 baseline through 2030. The black dotted line on this graph shows Louisville's baseline emissions if Xcel Energy was not making any effort to increase the renewable electricity of their grid and reduce emissions. You can kind of see where it says Louisville's emission goal. It's a gray dotted line. That is our current goal. It's just simply keeping our baseline or keeping our emissions below our 2016 baseline. The rest of the graph, so the red and the blue, shows where our emissions are going. It's our emission forecast, and this is with Xcel Energy's commitment to the to decreasing their emissions in their electricity mix. So we have met this goal every year. We are projected to continue to meet this goal. As you can see, with the projected decrease in emissions between now and 2030 will be significantly below our current goal. So we're essentially meeting it without needing to do anything. So part of the task and the stakeholder team was to think about potentially updating our goal, since we kind of just saw where it sits on this graph. So the team was presented with 3 different goals. The state of Colorado's goal aligns with where our current emissions forecast would go if we took no action. The goal with the gray line is Superior's current goal. This is reducing our emissions 60% below 2016 levels, whereas our current goal would be about 50%. That's in alignment with the state. And then the third option was the City of Boulder goal, which is the aspirational goal, and that is net zero emissions by 2035. The stakeholder team did decide to align with kind of the middle of the road goal, which is in alignment with the town of Superior, and that is a 60% reduction in energy-related emissions below 2016 levels by 2030 and carbon neutrality by 2050. This is also a science-based target, so it's in alignment with the Paris Agreement, and it's in alignment with keeping global warming below 1.5 degrees Celsius. So that was kind of the rationale behind why the stakeholder team decided on this benchmark, and then also aligning regionally with the town of Superior as we move into implementation and reporting and kind of setting forth a plan to kind of meet those targets by 2030. So after we set the goal and the vision, we, in the third workshop, really started to talk about how are we going to reach these goals? What are we going to need to do in both the residential and commercial sectors to meet these targets? So the stakeholder team identified strategies to really focus on during the next 18 months. So this is a short-term implementation plan, since Partners in Energy and Xcel will be supporting us directly with staff time, and I'll talk a little bit more about their support in a little bit, but they'll be supporting us quite a bit for the next 18 months. So we're really focusing during this short-term implementation period on laying the groundwork. So we're talking education, outreach, really supporting and advising our residents and our businesses and providing incentives and rebates to support the transition. There are residential and commercial strategies. We're achieving those strategies through our implementation MOU, and of course, lots of collaboration between staff, Sustainability Advisory Board, PACE, Energy Smart, Partners in Energy, and other community groups. So first, looking at the residential strategies, the first one is single-family homeowner engagement. We have created a wonderful website page, our 123 Electrify page, which is up on our sustainability website. This does a great job of breaking down the topic of home electrification kind of into three steps. So the first one is plan, the second one is purchase, and the third is perfect. And so it's kind of a bite-sized way for residents to learn about all the different pieces to start to take that next step to electrify their homes. We also are planning a 123 Electrify workshop series. All of the dates are set, and they're at the top of that website page if you go to it, starting in May. So they'll be May, June, July, and August of this year, and we are planning those in collaboration with Superior and Lafayette. So we're really excited about those. So we'll be supporting homeowners through those in-person workshops and really providing them with information and rebate and incentive information. The next two residential strategies are a little bit more specific, and so the next one is rental and multifamily engagement. We recognize that there are specific barriers for renters and for multifamily property owners when it comes to electrification or installing EV charging. If you're not the one that owns the home, there are just different challenges. So first, we're wanting to connect, to learn about the barriers, and then identify champions in our community, support them in implementing these projects. Maybe it's a multifamily property that wants to install EV charging. We partner, we make sure we support them in finding the rebates and incentives, getting that project off the ground, and then showcasing the results to the broader community. The last residential strategy is mobile home engagement. So with this strategy, we're also partnering with our bag tax. We have funding through the bag tax to support a waste reduction event at Parco dello Zingaro this year. So we'll be kind of partnering with our efforts through that funded sustainability division event to provide PDZ residents with information about low to no cost programs and resources, working with Xcel Energy to learn about the actual electrical infrastructure at PDZ, and then of course providing Spanish translation, interpretation services, and something that I think is really neat that Partners in Energy is providing through the MOU is a stipend to PDZ community members that are willing to support with community engagement at the mobile home park, so paying people for their time. And then on the commercial side, we have two main strategies, and I think it was really neat to see the stakeholder team, that just the different business representatives on this team really come up with these specific strategies. And the first one specifically is the research. So they were saying things like, you know, there's over 1,000 businesses in Louisville. Like, you only have so much time. How can you start to try to think about how to be more strategic about your outreach and kind of make a targeted engagement campaign for businesses? So that led us to create the business research strategy, which is doing some background analysis and research on our commercial building stock to learn about where we think businesses, where we think in the city there are businesses that have equipment that's nearing the end of its useful life within the next 5 to 7 years. So going to those businesses to support them, to start talking with them about, you know, potentially considering a transition to electric when their gas furnace comes up for replacement. And it just so happens that we were able to partner with the CU Anschutz School of Public Health class beginning in January of this year to actually do that research for us. So we've already kind of gotten this strategy off the ground. We have a student group that's conducting this research for us right now. So they're using assessor data to look at the year that certain businesses were built. They're doing research on the types of equipment that were installed in these buildings at that time, then kind of calculating and estimating the replacement schedule of that equipment to kind of get a sense of where we think businesses might have equipment that is nearing the end of useful life between the next like 3 to 8 years, so that we can so that we'll take that research, which will be finished in late April, and literally hand it off to the sustainability division and to PACE to really hit the ground running with their outreach. Which brings us to the second commercial strategy, which is the advising. So in late April, early May, city staff and PACE will take the research and really target our outreach and engagement efforts in the business community, supporting businesses that may be interested in PACE or Xcel Energy programs, may have equipment that is coming up for replacement. And this strategy really focuses on building the relationships with the business community. So, you know, providing them with resources, providing them with support, really being, you know, this friendly face that businesses can call in if they have questions or need, you know, any sort of guidance through this process. Because we understand it's a long and arduous process. It's also very expensive, and so we want to be partners in the community on this. Again, identifying champions, we already have quite a few, supporting these projects and then showcasing these results to the larger business community. And our partners on this are Economic Vitality, Chamber of Commerce, Partners for a Clean Environment, and the larger business community. So that's kind of an overview of the community decarb plan and where we landed with our strategies in that plan. I think it was a really collaborative effort. Thank you so much to the stakeholder team and for everyone that, you know, contributed to the planning. I think it was a great work. Next, quickly talking about the update to our climate action goals. So looking at our community goals, the numbers show the new proposed goals. So on the carbon-free electricity for both the community and the municipal goal, we are not recommending any change. We should likely achieve this target through Xcel Energy's projected renewable energy electricity portfolio. And we do feel that focusing on a reduction in greenhouse gas emissions is more impactful than setting a more aggressive renewable energy goal, just because it is more cost-effective to increase renewable energy at a utility scale rather than really put all of our efforts into increasing renewable energy on like a home-by-home basis. So as you can see, number 2 is where we see changes, recommended changes. So really, and then you can see the previous goal underneath. So really we're just, being more specific about what we're talking about and putting a few more numbers to our targets. Again, this is a science-based target. We're aligning with the community decarb plan. We're clarifying core emissions to be specific about what we're talking about. So we're saying energy-related emissions. And then we're clarifying community as residential and commercial industrial. On the municipal side, again, no change on the carbon-free electricity. This goal has already been achieved by the city through our on-site renewables and our subscriptions. And as we implement our internal decarb plan, we will have more of that on-site electricity that we're producing. On the municipal side, we do align our municipal target with our community target. We feel, that's something we've talked about a lot, is being leaders in the community, really being accountable as the city. So we're recommending we align our municipal goal with the science-based target of 60% below. We also, I thought it was interesting since I started that the municipal targets only went through 2025 and then the community targets went through 2030. So this is, again, aligning that with 2030 rather than 2025 and clarifying core emissions to mean energy related. And then lastly, the Xcel Energy MOU for implementation of this plan. Again, it will focus on the 18-month short-term implementation support from Xcel and PI, Partners in Energy. And Xcel provides quite a bit of support. They do a lot of marketing and communications work, outreach content, design. They basically designed that whole 123 Electrify page. Thank you to Hannah Miller for actually getting it up on the website, but they provided us with all the content and all the links and things like that. They do a translation, printing of materials, and then really help us with data collection, data analysis. I talked a little bit about the stipends that they're willing to provide to community members at PDZ that will help us with community engagement in our mobile home park. And then also, Partners in Energy is absolutely fantastic with project management. So they set up all the meetings, keep us organized, send follow-up emails, and really just ensure that our projects continue to move along. On the city side, we are leading the planning of the workshop series, 123 Electrify. We'll be leading identification of key renter, multifamily, commercial business representatives, and then supporting those projects and supporting the projects in the actual implementation. We'll be leading the mobile home park engagement and the event planning at PDZ, and we are managing the student research project, analyzing results, and then working with PACE to target that business outreach. So our recommendations for this project, we recommend adopting the resolution, updating the Louisville Clean Energy and Carbon Emission Reduction Goals, also known as the Climate Action Goals, to align with the great work that we've been doing over the last 2 years on both the internal and the community decarb plans, and also recommending adopting the resolution approving the MOU with Xcel Energy for the implementation of the community decarbonization plan. Thank you very much for your time tonight. That's it for me. Happy to answer any questions, and thank you.
Well, don't go away yet. Do any of the council members have, before we get into that, folks may know that Kayla is going to be leaving us shortly to take a position with the city of Rochester, Minnesota, which is a really big, wonderful step for her. And we're as sad as perhaps you are happy to take on that brand new, exciting adventure, but we can't, I speak for myself, others can speak for themselves, but can't say how appreciative we are of all the work that you've done since you've been here in managing a lot of our sustainability efforts and working with people in the community and other people in staff and you name it. So we are going to miss you.
Thank you. It's been an
lot.
honor to work here, and it's been great to work with all of you and everyone back here, and Jeff and all of staff. So thank you so much for the opportunity, and I will stay in touch.
Yeah, that's good. And other questions that council members have? Kayla? Yes, go ahead, Councilmember Henlington.
Thank you. Fantastic presentation as always. I appreciate your attention to detail, and you do a really great job presenting that. So I think my question is a step ahead of what was presented today, but based on some emails that came in from different folks in the community, I wanted to ask it here tonight. And it's regarding check-ins along the way when implementation kicks off. You know, I think it's brilliant that you engaged the public health students to help do some of this work. And then looking forward to achieving these goals, are there certain points in times where we're going to assess progress and then also resource needs to make sure we can still keep moving forward on this really big timeline that we have?
Yeah, it is a big timeline, and thank you for the question. I think that's what's useful about, first of all, about the short-term implementation focus. So we're not setting a 2030 goal and just saying, this is our goal, and we hope that we get there. We're really focusing specifically on the next 18 months. And I think one of the great things about partnering with Xcel and Partners in Energy is that they hold the utility information, and so they have these reports that we actually currently use, and we report out every year on our current climate action goals. So every May or June, when that new information comes out, that's the spreadsheet of data from Xcel that I use to update our climate action goals. And so we are partnering with them. So we have a lot, not only that annual data, but also program-specific data. So we are able to see how many people have participated in the last year in renewable energy programs, in demand-side management programs, which are energy efficiency, HVAC replacement on both the residential and commercial side. And so I think we can really take the program data and the renewable energy program participation data, and then we can compare that to our annual community energy report, it's called, from Xcel, which shows not only kilowatt hours and therms, so specific utility data for the residential and commercial sectors, but also the greenhouse gas emissions associated with the electricity and the natural gas. So we can kind of compare those two things to see if we see program participation going up, are we seeing, emissions going down, how much of the emissions is associated with the greening of the grid, and then how much is associated with additional program participation in Louisville. So I think it really helps to have that connection that we do have with Partners in Energy and with Xcel.
And we'll also be tracking staff time as well. So if this is one of our really high priority work goals, we want to make sure that when we're planning our budget, we also keep in mind what sort of FTEs we need to keep this moving forward, correct? I'm looking at both the city manager and you. I see nods. Okay. Thank you.
Others, yeah. Mayor Pro Tem?
Just curious if you see hurdles or pitfalls along the way that we should be thoughtful of today. Like what is going to, for me, it kind of seems like, hey, we're on this trajectory. Xcel's doing their thing. We're doing our thing. We're going to increase, all these programs and knowledge of these programs, and like sort of a set it and forget it from a policymaker's perspective. But what do you see as some of the potential hangups in implementation over the next, let's just go 5 years. I know you're talking about 18 months, 5 years, 10 years, but like over the next 5 years, what are the potential things that we need to look out for as derailing this progress?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think, so again, for the next 18 months, we're really focused on finding those champions in the community. And these are kind of some of, especially on the commercial side, businesses that are interested in this work. So PACE has a program they were calling it electrification feasibility studies, and now I think they're calling it like your energy plan or something. But essentially, they work with a third-party engineering firm to come out and do a full assessment of what it would take for this commercial business to start to electrify. So they look at their existing electrical infrastructure coming into the building, their panels, they look at all of their gas-fueled equipment, their ductwork, really everything that it would take to convert their systems to electric. That process takes quite a while, and also the implementation of something like that would take quite a while, and it would be quite expensive. We found in the community survey on both the residential and the commercial side that the largest barrier to decarbonization and electrification is cost. So I think, you know, there's something to be said just about the barrier itself of the high costs associated with this and the need for future funding and incentives, and also the piece that after you kind of have worked with and supported these champions in the communities, then what? So, you know, we're going to do everything that we can to showcase these results, to support, you know, more businesses and more residents and taking action on these topics. But I think one of the things to keep in mind as we move forward are potential policy levers in the future. So kind of keeping the scales and keeping the pulse on what the state is doing, and then also looking at, you know, what makes sense for the city of Louisville to do. Is it consideration of policy? Is it filling the gap with more rebates and incentives, which I think, you know, brings up the budget issue. So I think those kind of larger topics of how do we create a wave and momentum for this within the next 5 years will probably be one of the larger kind of pieces to keep in mind.
I thought you said policy lovers, and then I realized you said policy levers. I was happy with either one. You know, you just got to talk to the.
Could be
you
both.
got to look at these policy levers. No, I appreciate that. I think, you know, what we hopefully do, right, is set clear direction, and these things are happening, and you guys are doing amazing work outside of this room, and we get to be like, nice work. And so just, yeah, having that thought on sort of the, like Councilmember Hamilton was saying, is those check-ins a year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now, like, these are our goals, but, you know, are people actually buying in? Are people actually doing this? It's one thing, and I'm glad we're doing internal decarbonization at the same time, kind of, you know, leading that. But yeah, just kind of thinking about, you know, what, being able to track that and understand what those hurdles are, and, you know, if we're plateauing or petering out on increased decarbonization within the community, like, yeah, what those levers are that we can continue to pull and access. But I appreciate all that information.
Councilmember Fahey.
I'm going to add first my thanks for everything you've done for the city for environmental efforts since you've been here. It's amazing what you've been able to accomplish. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Then a couple of questions or points. One is, I'm wondering, I like the ideas Mayor Pro Tem mentioned about kind of leading by example and decarbonizing the city facilities as an example of how businesses could do it and what the cost effectiveness of that would be. I'm wondering if we're doing any efforts on new businesses that are not moving into an existing building, but building a new facility. Red Tail Ridge comes to mind. Are we doing any outreach to the businesses that might potentially build an all-electric facility?
Yeah, so when we talk about new construction, that's really more on the energy code side of things, which I believe I won't be here for, but you all will be seeing energy code again in a few weeks. So that's a project that we've been working on for a while. This plan is really focused on existing buildings, but with new development, I don't know as much on the rebate and incentive side, but I know there are utility rebates, Xcel Energy rebates when it comes to new development, and I'm sure other funding sources to support that. But it's certainly more on the code side of things than it is on you know, within the scope of this plan.
Okay. And then the next section or question area is on the impact of the fire rebuilds. I know some people, myself, for example, are rebuilding all electric with heat pumps and solar panels and all. And I've heard at one of the sustainability meetings, advisory board meetings, that they were talking about the possibility of giving tours of the houses that have rebuilt, like net zero or near it, to anyone who wants to build a home of any kind, and let them actually experience and know what the actual costs are. Because I know that there have been a lot of overestimates of what the cost would be. And then finally, on your point about the MOU with Excel, that, in my mind, is the most efficient and cost-effective way to provide zero carbon electricity to anyone who wants to have it. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. I had a few questions.
Councilmember Kern has her hand up as well.
Pardon me?
Councilmember Kern has her hand up.
Oh, all right. Well, why don't we take her questions first then? Councilmember Kurt.
Thank you. Phenomenal, Kayla, and I will tell you, we will definitely miss you in the city of Louisville. You, as Councilmember Fahey was saying, you've done incredible work for this community in moving us toward a lot of great sustainability goals. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
I did want to ask if when you were working with the stakeholders, and I appreciate the kind of effort that went into that because of the broad sector of people that were part of that group. Was there any, I saw that there were three ideas: either follow along with the state plan, do a more aggressive plan, or just aspirational plan. And then there was like a full on, if we can be completely carbon neutral in 5 years or 6 years. Was there also a conversation though about setting goals that are at the 60% greenhouse gas emissions of the 2016, which I think is a brilliant idea for us to work toward, especially partnering with Xcel Energy? Was there conversation though of, instead of setting a specific goal to be carbon neutral in 2030, of maybe having it be more aspirational so that it's less legislatively kind of guiding and more of a, this is what we see on the horizon. This is what we see as the long-term future for Louisville?
Yeah, thanks for the question. I would say that is kind of the way that I see our current climate action goals. So I see our climate action goals as really our North Star, kind of something that we're working towards. And so I think strengthening that goal with the 60% is really our way of saying, this is what, we are trying to work towards. We are not asking for adoption of the community decarbonization plan, because that is where there are very, very specific, year by year targets of exactly what we need to see in the residential and commercial sectors and every single category in every single year to achieve this 2030 goal. And we felt that it would be a little bit too rigid to ask council to adopt something like that, because it would tie council to this specific goal of in 2024, you have to do this. And so really, I think by adopting more broadly, recommending the update to the climate action goals, which in my mind sets that target, and then working from this community decarbonization plan that has these specific targets outlined, I really think we are kind of taking from both sides of it and having that vision that we'll be reporting on annually, while also having something that's more metrics and numbers based in the plan to kind of work from.
Okay, I like the idea of the annual metrics, not only for the sustainability department and council to be able to see how effective everybody is being, but it's residents too. They can see, how improved the community is and what we're doing to make a big contribution. And the reason I was thinking that I also like what Councilmember Pro Tem Dickinson was saying about having some shorter term measure, like where we come back and we have another discussion, whether it's every 4 years or 3 years or what have you, to reevaluate the goals that we're on, that's something that I was thinking of too. Thinking of if we technology is keeping up. Is there better and newer solar? Is there other sources for like community-wide things like ground source energy as it starts to come online in the next decade or so? That's where my leaning and asking the question is saying, rather than specifically saying 2030 for carbon neutral, if we were to put the short-term goal, the 2030 goals of being 60% of the 2016 numbers, and then every few years we revisit that and see where is technology, how far are we able to move? Because I think new construction is going to be great. I think we're already seeing some phenomenal things happen. It's the movement of existing buildings and businesses and existing homes that are going to need a fair amount of expensive retrofitting.
Definitely. Yes. So just to clarify, the recommended goal is the 60% reduction by 2030 and then carbon neutrality by 2050. And I think that is because it is hard to set a goal. It is hard to, be really specific, I think, further out than 2030 right now. So we're setting that percentage target to 2030 because we can be accountable year after year from now until 2030. And then I think it would be a great idea to revisit the specifics as we kind of near the 2030 date. And again, we do update the website page, which is the reporting on the climate action goals every year in June. The Sustainability Division provides an update to the Sustainability Advisory Board in September. And then typically we have been providing an annual sustainability update to Council every December. So kind of progress on the climate action goals, sustainability plan, and now certainly could be progress on both the internal and community decarb plans as well. I mean, that could be done through memo or through a presentation, however Council would prefer. But I agree with you. I think, the more that we can be continuously reporting on this information as we have annual metrics coming in, the more that I think we can be accountable and, look to adjust targets as necessary.
Thank you.
Other questions? Okay, I've got a couple. I noticed in the staff report, there's a comment in there that emissions from natural gas use represent a growing percentage of overall energy emissions. Do you have any idea why that is?
Yeah, so if you look at that graph on the next page after that, so it says long-term emissions from natural gas represent a growing percentage of overall energy emissions. And that is because of the significant decrease in electricity emissions from Xcel Energy's grid between now and 2030. So on that graph, the kind of dotted areas are the electricity emissions, and then the more solid colored areas are the natural gas emissions. So because natural gas emissions, right, because we're still burning the fossil fuels, are still emitting significant greenhouse gas emissions, we're seeing a decrease in the emissions in the electricity. We're seeing, continued emissions from natural gas. So over time, those emissions become a larger piece of the pie because the emissions in the electricity sector are decreasing.
Okay. One moment here. Let me get down to your PowerPoint here. Excuse me. And thank you for all of the information that you provided, because it's really terrific background for all of us. One of the things I wanted to ask is what the status is of Colorado's own state standards. And in particular, do you have a sense of how those are likely to change during the next couple of years? you have any, I'm not asking so much for a crystal ball, but just what you know about what's planned.
So the state's just general greenhouse gas emission goals. The state is currently, right now, in the process of updating their greenhouse gas reduction roadmap, which lays out strategies in different sectors. I mean, it's statewide, so it's focused on industrial, it's focused on agriculture, it's focused a lot on oil and gas, but certainly also on buildings and transportation. So they are updating that plan right now. There is a significant amount of money available through the EPA. So actually just yesterday, both DRCOG, the Denver Regional Council of Governments, and the state of Colorado both submitted grant applications to the EPA for, one was for $199 million, that was the DRCOG one that I was involved with, and then the State Energy Office also submitted one, I believe in the tier up from there, so in the $200 to $500 million range to support their updated greenhouse gas reduction roadmap. So if one or both of those grant applications are funded, we'll see an infusion of potentially hundreds of millions of dollars in the state of Colorado to support policy, to support building electrification. And so I think a lot of the state's plans and goals will likely change in the next few months based on the award of the EPA grant. But certainly they are updating their goals. I would say strengthening their goals. They're strengthening the state energy code right now. So I would say it's moving in that direction.
Do you recommend that we come back and look at this every time the state makes those kinds of changes? Or I'm asking for some advice on your way out here.
Yeah, I would say we have our work cut out for us if council does update the climate action goals to the science-based target of 60%. I think we have significant work that, on our plate in the building and transportation electrification sectors here in Louisville. It's achievable, but it is something that will take momentum and take some significant work. So I do think just Councilmember Kern suggested the annual reporting and just staying accountable on the metrics is really kind of, I think, the most important thing that we can do as we move towards 2030. Mm-hmm. But that's certainly, I mean, we can, when we report out annually, we can certainly report on state, any movement on the state level as well.
Okay. A couple of other questions. This one for the city manager. Let's assume just for a second that we were to pass the recommendation tonight. Would there be any immediate effect on staffing? Or do you picture that as something that happens over time? Can you this is really kind of maybe a riff on Councilmember Hamilton's earlier point, maybe more specific about the staffing.
I think where we go with staffing is something that you'll be considering as part of your budget process. I anticipate you'll see staffing requests across the board. I think that we could use some additional staffing in sustainability, at least one more person soon to fill that one.
Well, that backfilling, yeah. That doesn't count backfilling.
And we'll just have to see how the numbers play out and where your priorities are.
Okay. One last thing is sometimes in this area, there's a lot of agencies, there's a lot of companies, there are a lot of acronyms. And I just wondered for folks maybe more at home who might be watching, can you just describe in a very short way Partners in Energy, PACE, and Energy Smart, what they are and what they do, and how they're going to collaborate with us?
Yes, and so this kind of, in a sense, supports your last question as well. I think I've worked in a lot of places, and this is by far the city that has the most support from the county. I think we have an amazing resource in Boulder County, sustainability through the county sustainability tax, which funds Boulder County staff on both the residential side, which is Energy Smart, and the commercial side, which is Partners for a Clean Environment, or also known as PACE. So these are Boulder County staff members that support the cities in Boulder County in achieving their goals. So on the Energy Smart side, they work with Louisville residents, Lafayette residents, to, find rebates, to connect them with Xcel Energy programs, to provide guidance and support on any type of home electrification question, energy efficiency questions, really anything having to do with the home. The PACE side of things supports businesses. And I think we have a really great resource in PACE. They're trusted community members. They're a great partner for the city, but they are not the city. And so I think that can be helpful sometimes as they go out to businesses and really provide resources and support to businesses. They connect with programs, with resources, and then both wings, both Energy Smart and PACE, have funding from the sustainability tax to provide direct incentives and rebates to residents. The city of Louisville right now is currently incentive stacking or doubling the rebates on the residential side, and we are exploring options to potentially provide additional support on the commercial side as well. So to provide additional support on top of the current PACE rebates. But I think, yeah, they're really great staff that just support our residents and businesses in making these steps, taking these next steps.
Thank you, Kayla. Any other questions from any council members about the presentation? All right, why don't we take some public comment? Again, speakers are limited to 3 minutes or 6 if you are pooling time with at least one other person who's in attendance, either in the room or outside. And please sign up with a card. Do we have, I think we have at least one who's just signed up, so.
I'm going to start with Kevin Lombardo online.
Hey there, Kevin Lombardo, Louisville resident. I just wanted to voice my support for the city updating its climate action goals with those in the decarbonization plans. I think it's a great start, but I also hope it's a start. I really hope we can use these goals and even more aggressive goals in the future as a basis for every initiative and decision we make as a city and as a community. So thank you.
Thanks, Kevin.
Next is Katie Dickinson, be followed by John Cowley.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. Katie Dickinson of Louisville. And I'll be brief. I just wanted to say thank you to the city. So I'm a professor at the School of Public Health, and this is, I think, the 3rd or 4th project that my students have gotten to do with the city. It's a wonderful learning opportunity for them. This is as part of my environmental and occupational health policy class. And so for Masters of Public Health students to learn about policy by working with the city to figure out how to implement its decarbonization plan, working with spatial data to map these businesses, is just a wonderful, wonderful learning opportunity. And I'm just grateful to all of you for that that partnership. And hope that the results will be useful going forward. I know this is a big undertaking, and I think particularly, that having the data to understand where the businesses who should be targeted, right, where we want to target that outreach, is a big task and important part of this. So mostly just a thank you, and appreciate being able to have the students have that opportunity to work with all of you.
Katie, thank you for your students doing that and involving them. Please pass on our appreciation for that, because that's, we hope that there's going to be more services that we get from the university as a result of other connections that the city is developing. But I really, really appreciate that kind of work that you're doing. Let's see, other comments?
Next is John Cowley, who will be followed by Josh Cooperman.
Hi, I'm John Cowley, resident, 303 Fairfield Lane. I'd like to make 3 major points regarding the community decarbonization plan. First, I strongly support moving ahead with the plan. This was set in motion an overdue effort to engage residents to cut Louisville's large carbon footprint. And as I've said before, we put out about 500 million pounds of carbon dioxide each year. We need to do something. Second, we're going to miss Kayla's organizational skills for getting this plan moving. The plan includes many city and regional workshops to attract residents and explain how they can cut their emissions. She also coordinates, of course, with the college students. This outreach is key for getting meaningful decarbonization. Without Kayla, we will all need to pull together to make up the hole that's been left. Third, this is tricky. I want to be a bit contrarian because I want to make the case that the present community decarbonization plan is way too timid. To support this, here are a few facts. My first example, Resolution 18 that you're voting on tonight, Goal 3, to generate 75% of Louisville's residential electricity from carbon-free sources by 2030, this requires no action because this is Excel's long-established target, which needs no effort by Louisville. Goal accomplished. Likewise, in Table 3 in the plan calls for recruiting 124 new solar participants annually. However, also with no effort by Louisville, more than that, 155 new solar roofs and solar farm subscriptions were the averages added in 2021 and 22. That's 25% more than the plan calls for. Goal accomplished. Clearly, if this is happening by itself, a lot more solar could be promoted and is needed. Related to that, in Excel's Memorandum of Understanding being discussed, there's no clear statement that Excel will help promote solar roofs, business solar installations, or solar farm subscriptions. Some might be afraid that these would compete to offer low-cost electricity, but they are essential. I myself have recently and easily subscribed to a solar farm. Also in Table 3 of the plan aims for 480 new EVs annually. That's about half what's needed to reach the goal of 30% of vehicles electric as proposed by the county's 2022 Regional Transportation Electrification Plan. I'm going to run out of time. Kayla was part of that effort. Excel in their MOU raised that target. But anyway, we're probably getting 480 new EVs as we speak. Goal accomplished.
Thanks, John.
One sentence. If I were the city council, I would approve this resolution and then say, report back in 6 months and propose much more ambitious targets along with methods to get there. Thank you.
Thanks.
Next is Josh Cooperman, to be followed by Tiffany Boyd.
Josh Cooperman, I live in Louisville. To begin, I would like to thank the city for engaging with Excel's Partners in Energy to develop a community decarbonization plan. And I would like to thank city staff, Excel's Partners in Energy, and especially the Community Decarbonization Stakeholder Group for developing this plan. Even as someone well-versed in decarbonization, I found some new interesting ideas in the plan. More specifically, I fully endorse the plan's recommended decarbonization goals. Specifically, a 60% reduction in total energy-related greenhouse gas emissions by 2030 and net zero emissions by 2050. Sorry. Although the community decarbonization plan describes these goals as ambitious, I would characterize these goals as necessary. As Kayla pointed out, they basically align with the Paris Accords, and current science tells us that to meet the Paris Accords, we need emissions to peak by 2025. Thankfully, ours have. We need to have emissions by 2030, and we need to be net zero by 2050. I would like to note that we have we're considering a 60% reduction rather than just having the emissions by 2030, but the resolution only refers to energy-related emissions, which doesn't include things like our consumption of goods and emissions from what we landfill. So 60% is probably pretty much in line with the Paris Accords. All right. I also hope and I believe that, that these goals are realistic. So I urge you to approve Resolution 18, Series 2024. Now, setting good goals, and I believe that these are good goals, is difficult. Achieving good goals is even more difficult. But in this case, it's absolutely imperative. So I also urge you to adopt Resolution 19, Series 2024, to allow Xcel's Partners in Energy to help us begin working towards our goals. And I hope that City Council will continue to prioritize working towards our decarbonization goals. I can tell you that the Louisville Sustainability Advisory Board will certainly help in working towards these goals. And I can also tell you that several of us are starting a new community-wide sustainability organization that will work towards these goals as well. Finally, I'd like to use my last bit of time to thank Kayla. She has done great work for the city, and it's been a pleasure working with her, particularly as a member of LSAB. I wish her the best, and I'd like to say that you may need to hire 2 people to fill the job that she does. Thank you.
Thank you, Josh.
Next is Tiffany Boyd.
Well said, Josh, well said. Good evening. What was it, Councilmember Dickinson? Policy lovers? Good evening, policy lovers, or council members. So I'll start there with thanking Kayla. It's just been amazing working with someone so competent, so talented in her research skills, you know, working with stakeholder groups, other communities, finding money under rocks for projects. I mean, we're gonna really, really miss her, and thank you. And to what you were saying, Councilmember Hamilton and Councilmember Dickinson, about the implementation of the plan going forward and making sure that we keep an eye on that North Star, and as all of the goals need to be checked in on, there will be a need for more staff. I mean, I was recently found out that the sustainability staff for Denver Public Schools is 6 people for a school district, 6 people, and we're a municipality and we have 1 point whatever we have. So in order to have the accountability that we're going to need, we will need more staff. And Kayla has strategically referred to it as the sustainability division. And I believe as we go forward, they say that your budget reflects your priorities. And you have continually prioritized the realities of climate change and the things that we need to do to be responsible citizens, and leave our town and our planet and our buildings in, you know, in good hands as we can for the next generations. So I believe that the expanding the sustainability division is going to be imperative for carrying out the goals that we're setting for ourselves, which is great. I also want to say, City Manager, that yes, there were very good vibes at the rec center. Yeah, it was very good vibes. Okay, so let's see, I'm down to 55 seconds. How did that happen? So I'm here tonight to encourage you to vote yes on the update of the climate action goals, so it will align with the internal decarbonization plan and make this important update to not only our decarb goals, but align with the MOU. I do agree with John and Josh that our goals overall are too timid. We need to do better, and because Kayla has left us in such good hands, I feel like we will do better. So your task as council members on some issues is not easy, but this one, voting yes tonight, should be pretty straightforward. Typically, we're navigating a lot of different broad spectrums, points of view, and priorities, but tonight it seems pretty straightforward. So we're looking forward to a yes vote from you. Thank you so much for everything you do for our community. Again, we want to align with that 60% below 2016 baseline, and also to reduce energy-related residential and commercial industrial greenhouse gases below that 60% mark, and also make sure that we are in line for carbon neutrality by 2050. So please listen to the science, and I can't think of anything more important. Can you? Thanks.
Thanks, Tiffany. Others? Okay. Thanks for the public comments. Do we have any other questions for staff? I have a question for staff. One of the things that you did, I think, in one of the charts was that you referred to benchmarks with respect to other jurisdictions or municipalities. And it looks like we are, if we pass what you're suggesting or what you've recommended tonight, that we would sort of be in the ballpark that Superior is at the moment. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And that the aspirational goal that you listed on the materials is more like Boulder. Are there other, sorry, I'm not used to having this thing that close to me, and I stop talking with my hands here. Are there other communities that are in that ambitious category, and other communities that are in the aspirational category?
That's a good question. Boulder County did recently update the greenhouse gas inventory, which lists out all of the communities in Boulder County and their climate-related goals. I think the updated climate action goal recommendation is in alignment with most of the other municipalities in Boulder County. City of Boulder, I think, really is leading the charge, and they do have, through their franchise agreement with Xcel Energy, a commitment from Xcel to have, I believe it's 100% renewable electricity by 2030. So they have that commitment from the utility, which I think allows them to set and to meet a little bit more closer to aspirational goals. And I believe theirs is the net zero by 2035, whereas ours is the 60% reduction by 2030 and net zero by 2050.
How about communities, say, just to the east of us, not in Boulder County, but Broomfield, Westminster, even Longmont, well, Longmont's in Boulder County, Erie?
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure on that. On the Boulder County Greenhouse Gas Inventory page, all of the municipalities are listed out with all of their goals listed. So you can kind of scroll through and take a look. I would say this is in the ballpark of the other communities.
Okay. All right, thanks.
Yep.
It is kind of difficult to break down Erie too between the two counties, but
yes.
At any rate, good. Other questions? If not, council comments. Who would like to begin? Councilmember Fahey.
I would just like to add more thanks to Kayla for a wonderful presentation and for her time here with the city of Louisville and all that she's accomplished for us.
Thank you.
I really appreciate it. And I am fully in support of the proposal to adopt resolution. And so would it be appropriate for me to make a motion now?
You certainly can do that.
All right, then I move to adopt resolution number 18, series 2024, approval of updated decarbonization goals.
Second.
Okay, do we have some discussion on that? Other comments? Do we have, looks like
Judy.
Judy's got a comment. Judy Kern, Councilmember Kern.
Hi, thank you. I actually would like to propose a friendly amendment, if I may. I really appreciate and look forward to the city and its residents and business owners with existing buildings working toward achieving a 60% reduction from the 2016 greenhouse gas emission numbers. I would, however, like the language for the carbon neutral for 2050 to, rather than be a goal that I'm concerned will lead to some inequitable requirements in the not too far future. I'd rather that it be more of an aspiration than a specific goal that we make legislative changes from in the future. So I guess my friendly amendment is to, I really do agree, and I fully support all of the other measures. I would just prefer that the language not be quite so strong as a goal for carbon neutral for 2050.
Do you have specific part of the resolution that you're referring to?
I'm so
Councilmember
sorry because
Kern?
I don't have that directly in front of me just because I'm sharing a screen on my laptop, but it's the first part of the resolution where it mentions the 2020, what is it, the 2030 goal of hitting 60% of the 2016 greenhouse gas emissions, and then it was followed up with carbon neutral by 2050 as a goal. I would rather that be either removed and we continue to monitor this and make recommendations as we see technology and financial incentives to help those who cannot afford to replace some of the equipment in the next few years or even the next 15 years, that we find ways to assist them more before we set a specific goal of saying that everything needs to be electrified and carbon neutral by 2050. So it's the only piece that I would like to have an amendment to change. And then I love everything else.
Okay. We need a second for that, and then acceptance by the,
If that was an offer of a friendly amendment, we
Yes.
just need the movement to accept it, and then, if so, then the seconder.
okay. Does the movement accept this friendly amendment?
No, I'm
I should
sorry.
explain.
I think that we need to keep it as a goal, and we can do an annual or biannual evaluation
You
of
don't
it.
have to,
But,
you don't have to explain it
oh, okay.
right now. We can get back to discussion of the amendment. I think that kills it.
Right, unless the intent was to do an intervening motion.
Yeah,
Which is,
well, that,
just wanted to throw that out there.
So as a point of conversation on it, I'm just worried about some of the financial implications to some of our smaller business owners and the cost to do full electrification, as well as a lot of homeowners that right now and hopefully in the next 10 years, we'll see major technology changes that make things like solar and air source heat pumps and things much more affordable. But as of right now, they're not. And, you know, when we talk about people who, like this year, have just installed a gas furnace, it will have a 25 to 30-year life on it. And we're talking about putting something as a goal that my worry is that it'll become a requirement before people have even end of life of their equipment in their own homes, that they need to make changes. I think improving the subsidies that we can give to people, but I think it's just, I'm concerned about it being something that we put in stone for 25 years from now for the city, especially when we're talking about impacting current businesses and homeowners, not just new construction. That's going to be good. I like the shorter term goals, and I think that we can really work together as a community to achieve those.
okay. Councilmember Fahey?
Yes, I think the big distinction is what you were just mentioning, is that it's a goal, not a requirement. And we can perhaps make it a requirement in future years, I don't know, but right now, the motion for tonight's resolution is just to set it as a goal. And I think that that's really important.
Yeah, I just don't want it to become like, or translate into a mandate in legislation that we approve in the next few years even. Does that make sense? Just a concern of the people who don't have the assets to, you know, or can't afford to take on a loan to make these changes.
Thanks, Councilmember Kern.
I was just going to specify, I mean, I have not, just to make sure, this is not a mandate, clearly, right? These are goals there's no penalty, fines, or anything if these aren't met. Obviously, we're striving for them. So I agree. I think there could be some equitable challenges down the road, but again, if this is not a mandate, I can support a goal for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's a resolution, it's not an ordinance by any means. Yeah, go ahead.
And I just want to draw us back to one of the very first slides that Kayla presented, where the vision for this goal is measured and equitable. So I think we're all on the same page actually here tonight, as far as this particular resolution goes. It was explicitly stated.
Yeah, Member Dunn.
Yeah, I'm in favor of this. I think, the issue is more that it has no teeth than that the teeth are too sharp. So I'm definitely fine with what we have. Thank you to everyone for all the hard work that's gone in. It's a long process, and I appreciate all the hard work and all the public speakers. Thank you for contributing to this. I love one of you very, very much. Sorry if that wasn't, it's Tiffany Boyd.
I guess we're all.
My wife knew.
We're all policy lovers now.
Yes, my wife knew it was Tiffany, but. No.
Policy lover. I support these, ambitious goals versus aspirational. We can also overachieve, right? There's nothing from stopping us from overachieving these things, right? So I agree with Mayor Pro Tem's comments, like there's no sharp teeth in here, so I can fully support this.
Okay, I would echo the other comments. I'm not going to add anything to those. Appreciate all the work, and let's see what a policy lover's vote is on this. Can we have a motion on resolution number 18. Can we have a roll call vote?
Councilmember Hamilton?
Yes.
Mayor Lay?
Yes.
Councilmember Kern?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Dickinson?
Yes.
Councilmember Fahy?
Yes.
Councilmember Bierman?
Yes.
Okay, motion passes.
You mind?
We have a motion on resolution 19.
I can do that. I move that we pass resolution number 19, series 2024, approval of a memorandum of understanding with Xcel Energy for the implementation of a community decarbonization plan.
Second.
Okay, everybody's loving the seconds too. Do we have any discussion on this one? Okay. All right. Seeing none, can we have a roll call vote?
Councilmember Hamilton?
Yes.
Councilmember Bierman?
Yes.
Councilmember Fahy?
Yes.
Councilmember Kern?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Dickinson?
Yes.
Mayor Lay?
Yes. Okay, motion passes. Thank you, everyone. And thank you again, Kayla. Ordinance number 1870, series 2024, an ordinance renaming the Arts and Culture Advisory Board and amending the Louisville Municipal Code to reflect the same. We're up for second reading. Public hearing was, this one was announced or advertised in the Daily Camera on March 10th, 2024, and continued from March 19th, 2024. Clerk Booth, go ahead.
I'll give you the shortest presentation in weeks here. The ordinance before you tonight will change the name of the Arts and Culture Advisory Board to the Cultural Advisory Board. It is supported by the board itself, and everyone feels it better reflects the roles and duties of that board.
Okay. Are there questions of the clerk on this? No. I think okay, well, let's have a first, do we have any, but you don't have any questions. Why don't we take our first round of public comments? Anybody have a public comment? Seeing none, council questions and discussion. Seeing none. Second round of public comments. Seeing none. Final council discussion. The reason, for those of you who may not be aware of this. On ordinances, we always have to take 2 rounds of public comment because they're a little more important, they're a little more prescriptive, and they are in fact mandates that people have to abide by. Yeah, we do that after. One other thing that I think is hanging over this is that the previous name of this committee, or the current name, which is the Arts and Cultural Advisory Board, ACAB, is actually a white supremacist term that we have learned from members of the community is something I don't think anybody who was involved in creating that name had in mind. And so just to make sure that is erased from the future of this committee, that's why we're doing this. So I will now close the public hearing. Is there a motion to pass ordinance number 1870?
So moved.
Second. Can we have
Second.
any other comments? Okay, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Bierman?
Yes.
Councilmember Fahy?
Yes.
Councilmember Hamilton?
Yes.
Mayor Lay?
Yes.
Councilmember Kern? Mayor Pro Tem Dickinson?
Yes.
Motion passes. All right, the next one is item 8D, ordinance number 1871, series 2024, and ordinance amending chapter 14.20 of the Louisville Municipal Code regarding public art. This is first reading to set a public hearing for April 16th, 2024 at 6 p.m. Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve ordinance number 1871, series 2024.
Second.
Voice vote, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? No. Attorney's report. Does the city attorney have any report other than how the water is off the coast of Belize?
The water off the coast of Belize is lovely. The heat in Guatemala was intense. And I have no further report.
Thank you. Are there council comments, committee reports, and identifications of future agenda items? Okay, we see none. Motion to adjourn? Second?
Second.
It's adjourned. Thank you very much.
Site to show that street connections can work, that the lots that are being created are actually developable lots. So it could have something